Men are the beautiful gender, not women. If you can step back and look from a bird's eye view here, you'll see that males, not females, are the beautiful gender in every animal species on the planet. I want you to consider a different perspective here before you start hurling out insults due to your westernized sheeple conditioning. And try to put yourself in the shoes of a totally antithetical perspective from the red pill coping sphere. Strip yourself of eroticism and sexual ad hominems and look at it plainly in nature for a moment. As if you're an alien observing the planet almost. In every species on the planet, the male is a beautiful and aesthetically blessed gender. And if it weren't for the war paint fraudulence of makeup, women would be the ones chasing after men, not the other way around as it currently stands. Let's look at a male lion versus a female lion. A robust and virile mane, stoic physiognomy, and twice the framing weight of a lioness. Monkeys, the male gorilla, the silverback, their brolic width and strong brow, versus the docility and almost loungy shaped female counterpart. Or orangutans, in contrast to the very basic and sort of boring female counterpart. She looks very bland. Or look at male mandrills versus female mandrills. Wide, striking fangs and a very colorfully saturated face. We can look at insects across the board. Butterflies. The males are the vibrant and exquisite ones with spellbinding designs and eyes popping out of them. The females, in turn, they're like almost always brown. You know? Prettiness? Not so much. All birds do this very blatantly as well. Look at mandarin ducks. They have insane contrast. Male versus female pheasants. Also insane contrast. Mannequins. Just compare these two and tell me which one stands out more. Obviously, to those of you who live in North America, those majestically giant antlers of those powerful bucks walking with that regal confidence, almost like it's a crown, right? In contrast to their petite and simple feminine counterparts. And of course, which is where the term peacocking originates from in the first place, look at male peacocks versus female peacocks. One is simply spellbinding, and the other one is brown and relatively boring. And the point of this video is that human males and females are also subject to this reality. And if you know this truth, you can use it to your advantage. When both men and women are biochemically sound and healthy, the man is actually the prize and worshipped beauty object at hand. The males are always taller, bigger bones, thicker hair, and more protruding bone structure in the face. The word for all of this is dimorphism. Dimorphism is a secret to attraction and dominating your social landscape. And it is true today that the vast majority of men don't have dimorphism, and this is solely because of the Illuminati's strategy to neuter us with vaccines, pharmaceutical drugs, the medical industry, and prescribing us with an entirely grain-based and carcinogenic seed oil-based diet, of course. And on top of that, we have all these theories you see out in the world today, especially in the manosphere, about hypergamy, loser passport broing, and the political talk of revolution. These are all just varying forms of genetically inferior men coping with the reality that I'm going to break down further here right now. Here's what's actually happening. When a country does not have enough resources and bioavailable nutrients in their food supply, the women are less likely to give birth to alpha males, to genetically superior men. Because those men, those boys, take a lot more energy and resources to produce. For those men, their bones are destined to be thicker and wider. When properly nourished, men are always the superior kin. As uncomfortable it is to say that, when men are at their apex form due to proper nutrition from infancy and beyond, they are clearly the successors of all these females. It is the males that are the hunters. It is the males that are the leaders. It is the males that are the protectors. And it is the males that acquire resources for their community and establish tribal rules of exchange. And it is the males that are the iconic figures or arbiters of beauty as well, with endless heroic energy to conquer the world and create beautiful architecture and art. We have the strength and we have the stamina. And being the inferior gender, women have to strategically position themselves to stabilize resources from these apex males. In other words, from these genetically superior men who have the confidence from their aesthetics and the endless stamina from the testosterone. And they do this by increasing the prolactin produced inside men. And for those of you who don't know what prolactin is a hormone produced by the pituitary gland that stimulates breast development and milk production in women. But this hormone also exists within men at significantly lower doses. But when prolactin doses are increased, prolactin causes erectile dysfunction, decreased libido, deregulates emotional stability due to its effect on the central nervous system, and for some men it even causes gynecomastia and headaches. And for 100% of men, weight gain is also associated with the increase of prolactin, especially in the belly and chin region. In other words, prolactin causes unattractiveness. Prolactin makes you weaker and less ambitious. It decreases your testosterone and decreases your sex drive. And most importantly, prolactin increase is most significantly associated with long-term physical contact from women. This is where the nofap community has some truth in their claims. I think the movement in and of itself is actually stupid holistically because you need to once in a while release the buildup with either sexual intercourse or even masturbation, I would say. Although I am totally against pornographic consumption, the point is you still need to release that buildup, otherwise you will go crazy. But the point is that a normalization of orgasms, constant hand-holding or hugging or all this cuddling energy greatly increases the prolactin produced in men. And I want to make this very clear. I'm not against this. Prolactin is actually incredibly important for male health, especially when they are transitioning into fatherhood as it concentrates oxytocin higher towards both the child and the wife. And I think that's amazing. And I'm glad God has instigated this into our biochemistry. But when you look at those miserable, pudgy, and oofy-doofy and self-hating dorky men who are balding in haste while losing any edge of heroism and not holding a semblance of aesthetic mastery under their belt, just know that a lot of those guys actually, you may not want to believe it, but they were once former lions. But they just had their hair cut off like Samson. And we can make this anecdotal. Think of every toxic relationship you've ever been in. You got this sexy little vixen from being unapologetically base, walking with confidence in your stride, moving like you're unstoppable. Everywhere you went, you didn't give a fuck what anyone thought because nobody can intimidate you. You moved with full potential and you were down to fight anyone at any time. And all those metrics, they signaled high virility and attraction to every female in the room that you entered. And those females, seeing that in you, seeing you peacock and show that dimorphism, they wanted to cuddle the fuck out of you. They want to give you every sexual position in play and outfit to get your prolactin as high as possible until you believe pleasure is associated with their approval and their sexual satisfaction, which in turn causes you to bloat the fuck up and look upon her as a beauty object instead of yourself. Because you're letting your shit go by the wayside and falling for the trap. And remember, this is not conscious. Like I said in a previous video about women, they don't intentionally enact evil. This is their biological programming, and you have to be aware of it in order to stay attractive to your partner in conjunction to having self-respect as a man. This is actually what's happening secretly behind the scenes, behind all these dysfunctional relationships that inevitably end up separating and a child looking at these divorced parents. This is actually the reason why people aren't conscientious of the reality of dimorphism and its importance. And just to be clear, I'm not against this once again. This is nature. I'm actually in favor of this when a man decides to create a family because of the endorphins that rush into the man's circuitry during this time. Especially the pheromones women excrete during their pregnancy. It's actually an incredibly rush, better than any scintillating conquests. And honestly, every man should enjoy this drug several times in his life, as it's the high that creates the stuff of memories. My point is that you should be aware of this because this is actually what's happening, and all these different conversational talking points from the black pill or looks maxing versus the prostitution transactional sphere of the red pill, it's all coming from not understanding what is happening at a biochemical level. And there is truth in looks maxing. However, I want to argue that you further yourself from actually having stable long-term pair bonding, which is the ultimate goal for children. If you use those unnatural means like implants or leg lengthening surgery, all these modalities could work, but they're insanely risky. I actually know a gentleman who got leg lengthening surgery, and he actually shared with me that it's basically guaranteed arthritis and a life of endless pain. Very little sleep, and you're gonna eventually be addicted to painkillers. And this is just because you wanna hack a saw away at your bones because you wanna be a little bit taller. It's just not worth it for your livelihood. It's incredibly degenerate shit. Don't do it. So the black pill is right about the truth of genetically superior males on one hand, but it's the ones who have a solid baseline, who understand nature, who win in the sexual market because they're the ones who are more likely to ride these different chapters of life gracefully, which is what you want when you look back at the novel that was your life. You want to have sexual conquest at the right time of your life, fine, but you also want to have children at the right time of your life. And if you're really lucky, then yeah, sure, you can still look mythological, but that's besides the point. It's all about timing and understanding nature. I would say other than like a hair transplant, for those of you who are really suffering with balding, a lot of that stuff is just too risky. So just try to keep it natural by fixing your diet and understanding female biochemistry. You know, before feminism and the manosphere developed this codependent relationship on social media and we forced our society to leap into this stupid gender war nonsense, men were looked upon as a beautiful gender. At least in both North America and all of East Asian countries, it was the males, not the females, who were exalted for their beauty. In all of nature, whether it's human beings or otherwise, it was always men who were revered for being aesthetically proper and having a standard of excellence in that regard. But without a doubt, because everyone is becoming generationally less healthy and being vaccinated by the day, or I should correctly say poisoned further, every oncoming generation, everyone is becoming more ugly and dysgenic. So of course, we're just going to see less and less dimorphism. And you can see all of that every day at a concentrated level on social media, especially Instagram and TikTok, but that's on your screen. And no matter how much filtering or editing you do for your photos, it doesn't translate to actually grabbing a girl offline in a tangible manner where she looks at you with this desire quaking in every single one of her bones and her genes to be conquered. It just doesn't happen. You need to understand the biochemistry and use dimorphism properly in the right setting. Women are literally roofied when they're in the same room as dimorphic males that they look upon as their superiors. So instead of taking these stupid drugs and diluting yourself with these red pill shenanigans, just know where you stand realistically, just look in a mirror, be honest, and date in your looks range. It's really not that complicated. And for your future, make sure when your wife is pregnant that she is consuming a ton of grass-fed butter and raw milk. That'll get the best odds for your offspring looking like a superior version of yourself. That's more or less the best you can do here. Alpha fucks and beta bucks, that should be more accurately translated to alpha is majestic and beta is plain and full of prolactin. There's actually nothing new under the sun. The only way relationships last in the current year is if the male is more attractive, even if slightly so than his woman. Otherwise, they'll end up divorced and fall apart. I'm just letting you know right now, it's guaranteed. All of that other advice is secondary bullshit. That's just the way it's always been. You can never cheat nature. Women want a man who has more genetic novelty than they do. That's just how it is. They want them taller, more regal. They want pointier features protruding from their face. And when you actually exhibit those qualities, and if you're in the right setting, in the right time, in the right place, then you won't even have to put any effort in the first place. Like personally in my life, I've never, ever pursued women outside of my comfort zone. Women have always pursued me and clawed and scratched against one another to put themselves in the same room as me. And it's not because I'm some super stud or because I had any game, which is a total fucking joke. It's because I always positioned myself to be the most dimorphic and novel figure inside the room. Then the game works for you. Instead of you trying to engineer the whole system, why don't you just go place yourself where the setup itself works in your favor? So all of the predilections that women feel are in your favor in regard. Look, I just want people to be honest about the game that we're in. Stay as hot as you can and make it last as long as possible because Father Time will hit us all. Understand that women are unconsciously exercising a resource extracting strategy when they cushion you the fuck up with love bombing and promiscuous contortions, which is awesome. Enjoy that as well. Just make sure you're using it to be in a place that gives you a sense of sovereignty and peace. But at the end of the day, do what you want. Peace.